Have you ever wondered if the key to your greatest breakthrough could be found in the places you least want to look? Sometimes, our real growth happens when we turn our attention to those darker moments that make us uncomfortable. This idea is at the heart of David Goggins' motivation strategies, where facing painful truths transforms self-awareness into unstoppable momentum. It all begins with a single mindset shift. Stop settling for comfort and start looking for what truly tests you. Jim Rohn once said, "You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight." Today, we're changing direction by shining a light on the hidden potential that's locked up behind your mental limits. We're often told to aim for comfort, whether it's a cozy job or an easy routine. But comfort can dull our senses and keep us from the personal growth that comes with effort and persistence. In many fields of foundational psychological sciences, it's recognized that real change occurs when you step outside that safe zone and push through temporary discomfort. Humanistic psychology highlights that you unlock self-actualization by confronting your raw truth. Think of it like a muscle. Your mental strength only develops when it's tested against resistance. So, how do you get started? Begin by questioning your assumptions about what's possible. Are you settling for 40% of your capabilities because that's where your mind says you're done? David Goggins' famous 40% rule reminds us that we often stop well before our actual limit. When you push just a little further each day, you create a new habit of extending beyond what you once believed you could do. This is not about chasing perfection. It's about nudging your performance and mindset mastery forward in small steps. Each push is a stepping stone to mental toughness. As you listen to these insights, consider an immediate action. It could be something as simple as taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or setting your alarm 30 minutes earlier to work on personal goals. The point is to break the pattern of seeking the easy route. According to coaching, mentoring, and personal advising theories, consistent small efforts accumulate into a massive shift over time. The more you stretch your mental limits, the more your self-motivation grows. Take a moment to ask yourself, what if I'm only operating at 40% of my capacity right now? That question alone can spark a mindset shift. Brace yourself for the journey ahead, because once you tap into this level of mental toughness, there's no going back to a life of mere comfort. You'll discover a brand new definition of resilience, fueled by radical honesty and a daily discipline that transforms the impossible into your new normal. Embrace radical honesty. Have you ever paused to really call yourself out on something you've been avoiding? That's what radical honesty is all about, and it stands at the intersection of personal transformation and self-awareness. David Goggins insists that you can't run from your flaws. You have to stare them down until they become driving forces for change. It's a technique that may feel uncomfortable, yet it holds the power to unleash your true potential. In humanistic psychology, experts like Carl Rogers highlight the importance of unconditional positive regard, which means accepting yourself as you are. But unconditional acceptance doesn't mean ignoring your weaknesses. Rather, it creates a safe mental space where you can examine those weaknesses closely. Jim Rohn has also noted that honesty is the first chapter in the Book of Wisdom. When you combine that foundation of acceptance with a willingness to be brutally candid, you equip yourself for a remarkable mindset shift. One way to cultivate radical self-honesty is by writing down one harsh truth about yourself each day. For instance, you might acknowledge that you often procrastinate or that you avoid challenging tasks to protect your ego. This seemingly simple act pushes you to confront what you might otherwise brush aside. In the realm of cognitive behavioral psychology, this practice works because it brings hidden habits to the surface, making them easier to reprogram. Once identified, you can replace self-defeating patterns with purposeful daily discipline. But self-awareness doesn't stop at writing things down. You need an action plan for tackling each harsh truth. Maybe you notice you're easily discouraged by failure. Challenge yourself to set micro goals that stretch your limits by 5% more each week. Or maybe you tend to shy away from challenges at work. Commit to taking on one extra task that scares you a bit. Motivation techniques rooted in counseling psychology suggest that when you pair self-honesty with incremental challenges, you train your mind to tolerate discomfort. This process leads to resilience and ultimately mental toughness. Remember, radical honesty is not about self-flagellation or beating yourself up. It's about acknowledging what's real so you can transform it. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "Face the facts of being what you are, for that is what changes what you are." By accepting the harsh truths, you open the door for personal growth. More than that, you gain a kind of emotional resilience that makes each success meaningful because you've earned it through authenticity. That's the real gift of radical honesty. It's not merely about tearing yourself down, it's about clearing the path for powerful, genuine self-improvement. Redefine your circle of influence. Have you noticed how your environment can shape you? The people you hang out with, the attitudes they hold, and the goals they pursue all create a sphere of influence around you. David Goggins emphasizes the importance of seeking out individuals who are uncommon, those who push you to break your mental limits and reach new levels of personal growth. In social psychology, particularly Leon Festinger's social comparison theory, it's established that we often evaluate our abilities by comparing ourselves to those around us. This can either push us forward or hold us back. Jim Rohn famously declared, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Reflect on that for a second. If you surround yourself with people who accept mediocrity, you may inadvertently adopt a similar mindset. Conversely, if your circle includes individuals who practice daily discipline, you're more likely to cultivate it for yourself. The difference in outcome can be staggering. A running buddy who refuses to let you slow down can do more for your grit than a dozen motivational speeches. This is because when others believe in pushing limits, they normalize high performance for you. For practical application, scan your circle and pinpoint one person who consistently challenges you. Invite them into your accountability process. Whether you're aiming to master the 40% rule, adopting new success strategies, or simply building mental toughness, having someone watch your progress ramps up your sense of responsibility. Research from the fields of coaching and mentoring suggests that when we feel accountable to another person, we increase our adherence to daily habits. This sense of obligation to perform can be the spark that helps you overcome adversity. If your existing circle doesn't provide that type of challenge, it's time to widen your network. Join an online group, attend a local workshop, or reach out to a community dedicated to personal growth. The leadership and management fields tell us that individuals excel when placed in an environment that demands higher standards. By carefully choosing your circle of influence, you also shape your mindset, your discipline, and your potential to achieve. Ask yourself, who in my life is currently pushing me toward a mindset shift? If you can't think of anyone, this moment is your wake-up call. Surround yourself with those who make you a bit uncomfortable with your current standards. That discomfort can be the raw fuel that moves you from a life of partial effort to a life of high performance. The right circle is more than just a support system. It's a catalyst for greatness. The power of daily discipline. Ever caught yourself looking for an easy way out the moment something feels hard? That's what some psychologists call the quitty mind, an internal voice that whispers for you to stop as soon as things get tough. David Goggins advocates daily discipline as the counterbalance to this mindset, arguing that structured routines can neutralize mental complacency. Jocko Willink, another advocate for mental toughness, famously states, "Discipline equals freedom." reminding us that structure often grants us the liberty to accomplish more. From the perspective of behavioral psychology, daily habits are driven by cue routine reward loops. Charles Duhigg's work on habit formation illustrates how we can reprogram these loops to suit our goals. For example, if your aim is to develop self-motivation techniques for early morning workouts, identify a consistent cue, like a preset alarm. Follow through with the routine. Immediately get up and do a brief exercise, and reward yourself, maybe with a nutritious breakfast or a few minutes of guilt-free relaxation afterward. Repetition is the secret here. Each day you complete the loop, you strengthen the neural pathways that make the habit more automatic. Jim Rohn once shared, "Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. It might look small in the moment, but these tiny actions accumulate into significant transformations. The difference between those who maintain their progress and those who continually restart is that consistent folks implement daily discipline as a non-negotiable. They understand that motivation wanes, but routine is a sturdy backbone that can withstand the dips. Try incorporating a written schedule. Block out time for tasks that advance you toward personal growth. Mark down even the simplest tasks, like 15 minutes of journaling for self-awareness or 10 minutes dedicated to reading about mindset mastery. These micro-disciplines might seem trivial at first, but over weeks and months, they fortify your ability to resist the urge to quit when life gets hectic. This approach resonates with adult learning theory, andragogy, which suggests that self-directed practical tasks are highly effective for sustaining motivation. Remember that discipline is a daily choice. Each morning when you wake up, you have the opportunity to either feed that quitty mind or starve it by sticking to your plan. Grit emerges not from massive leaps, but from steady, persistent steps that compound over time. The beauty of daily discipline is that it transforms extraordinary efforts into everyday practice. Before you know it, activities that once felt impossible become second nature, propelling you toward mental toughness and personal excellence. Break through the 40% rule. Have you ever noticed that most people tend to pull back just when they could push further? David Goggins' 40% rule posits that when you feel done, you're really only 40% into your capacity. This concept isn't just motivational fluff. It aligns with ideas in cognitive behavioral psychology that suggest the mind often acts like a governor, limiting your performance under the guise of self-protection. Whether you're running a marathon or starting a new business, your brain might tap out early to shield you from discomfort. Anders Ericsson's research on deliberate practice adds another layer to this concept. Deliberate practice is about purposeful, focused repetition aimed at improving performance. It means pushing past mental barriers at the very moment your mind insists you've had enough. This is precisely where Jim Rohn's insight comes in. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. When you're at the 40% mark and think you're done, that's your invitation to extend your limits by even 5%. Over time, that extra 5% becomes your new baseline, reflecting a powerful mindset shift toward personal growth. In educational and learning sciences, there's emphasis on stretch goals, targets set just beyond your current skill level. These goals act like mental scaffolding. You might not be able to jump from running a 5K to a full marathon overnight, but you can extend your run by small increments each week. The process keeps you in a state of continuous learning and adaptation, which fosters resilience and mental toughness. By refusing to settle at 40%, you create a habit of consistently pushing limits, reinforcing the belief that you can achieve more than you initially thought possible. Building mental strength is not only about pushing your body, but also about mental reprogramming. You learn to talk back to the voice that says, "Stop, it hurts," with a new voice that says, "This is where growth happens." Sports psychologists often train athletes to identify these mental cues and redirect their thoughts, a process that can be applied in daily life. Think of it as harnessing your emotional resilience. When you hit that mental wall, remind yourself that discomfort often precedes breakthroughs. A practical tip is to set micro goals to increase your effort level each week. If you're working out, try adding an extra set. If you're studying, commit to 5 more minutes after your mind says it's time to quit. That small act of defiance against the internal governor can propel you toward higher levels of self-improvement. Once you know you can exceed the 40% rule, you'll question every limit you've accepted. It becomes a powerful testament to what's possible when you keep going, long after you thought you couldn't. Confront your inner demons. Why do we sometimes freeze up when faced with opportunities for growth? Fear and insecurity can often act like loud neighbors that interrupt our focus, convincing us we're safer if we step back. From a neuroscience perspective, the amygdala's job is to alert us to danger, but it can overreact to challenges that aren't truly life-threatening. David Goggins points out that the mind uses fear and discomfort as protective mechanisms, yet these can also become barriers to achieving your full potential. Jack Canfield famously remarked, "Everything you want is on the other side of fear." If you let that sink in, you'll see that fear is not just an obstacle, but also a signal telling you where meaningful growth can occur. Researchers in transpersonal psychology suggest that confronting your inner demons can lead to significant personal transformation. For instance, if you've always been afraid of public speaking, that might be a sign it's exactly what you need to tackle to build emotional resilience. Visualization techniques can help reframe fear. Imagine the anxiety you feel before a big presentation. Instead of interpreting it as a sign you're not prepared, see it as your mind mobilizing energy to help you excel. The sports world often uses this approach, teaching athletes to visualize success as a powerful motivation technique. If you envision yourself confidently presenting or hitting that personal record in a race, you trick your mind into believing it's attainable. Overcoming mental barriers then becomes less daunting. Jim Rohn's wisdom echoes here too. Don't let your learning lead to knowledge. Let your learning lead to action. Identifying your fears is just the starting point. You must channel that awareness into practical steps that challenge your comfort zone. Maybe it's signing up for a workshop, volunteering to lead a small meeting at work, or taking that first run even if you feel out of shape. Each small act of courage trains your brain to associate fear with growth rather than retreat. The key is consistency. Give your mind repeated evidence that what you once labeled danger is actually a stepping stone. Over time, the amygdala's alarm softens. Fear may still show up, but it no longer paralyzes you. Instead, it acts like a guide, pointing you toward areas where you can push beyond your mental limits. Embracing fear as an indicator of growth can unlock a new level of mindset mastery. When you confront your inner demons head-on, you transform fear into a signal that you're edging closer to a breakthrough, rather than a sign to stop. The quiet battle. You versus you. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing all your external motivators had vanished. No deadlines, no coaches, no cheering crowds. Would you still push forward? This scenario highlights the quiet battle that is always going on. You versus you. David Goggins calls attention to the moments when no one else is watching, insisting that true mental toughness is formed when you rely solely on self-motivation. Mindfulness techniques can be invaluable here. Drawing from counseling psychology, mindfulness is about paying non-judgmental attention to the present moment. By observing your thoughts, feelings, and impulses without immediately reacting, you gain awareness of how often you rely on external motivators. In that space of observation, you create the freedom to choose differently. You can train yourself to become the source of your own discipline, Jim Rohn's teachings often stress personal responsibility, framing it like this: you don't get paid for the hour, you get paid for the value you bring to the hour. Apply that wisdom to your personal life. The value you bring to your moments of solitude is what determines whether you'll keep going or slack off. One tool to help is metacognition, a concept from cognitive psychology that involves thinking about how you think. For example, whenever you catch yourself whining internally, step outside of that thought. Ask, why am I resisting this challenge? That question alone can be enough to shift your perspective from complaint to self-improvement. Consider practicing short mental check-ins throughout the day. Pause every couple of hours and ask, am I acting in line with my goals, or am I coasting? This approach is backed by research in professional skills and competencies, where regular self-evaluation leads to higher performance outcomes. By holding yourself accountable, you become your own coach, cheerleader, and evaluator. No external validation required. It's easy to be motivated when the world applauds you, but the real test comes when the applause is gone. That's the defining moment that shapes your emotional resilience and personal growth. You'll find that winning the quiet battle helps you shatter mental limits you never realized you had. Even if you stumble, you're learning to stand on your own 2 feet. It's a mindset shift that positions you to achieve results regardless of external circumstances. By tapping into your inner strength daily, you transform fleeting motivation into a steady current that carries you through rough patches. This is the essence of building habits and mental fortitude, fueling your journey from the inside out so you can reach for success even in silence. Accountability. Partners, the key to longevity. Every long journey has moments when you want to give up. That's where an accountability partner comes in. Someone who genuinely wants you to succeed but won't hesitate to call you out if you're slipping. David Goggins frequently acknowledges the value of having someone who challenges you to stay on track, especially when you're pushing past limits. Studies in coaching psychology support this idea. Consistent, structured feedback from a partner or coach dramatically improves the likelihood of hitting your goals. Jim Rohn underlined the significance of accountability by noting, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. But discipline doesn't always come naturally. It's like a muscle that grows with consistent use. When you add a partner to the equation, you give that muscle a workout routine. Knowing someone is checking in on your progress can spark an extra burst of self-discipline. You're no longer just letting yourself down if you quit. You're also letting down another person who believes in your personal growth. There's a concept in organizational behavior known as shared responsibility, where team members hold each other accountable. This practice is equally effective in personal endeavors. Whether you're training for a marathon, building mental toughness, or mastering the 40% rule, having someone else invested in your outcome can be a game changer. The reason is clear. We naturally strive to avoid disappointing those who've committed to supporting us. To put this into action, pick a goal that stretches your mental limits. Maybe working out 5 days a week or practicing self-motivation techniques each morning. Then find someone who resonates with your ambition. Create a plan to check in weekly or even daily, sharing small victories and setbacks. This approach aligns with group facilitation principles, where regular check-ins make it harder to lose momentum. It also aligns with success strategies recommended in the broader field of personal development, as consistent accountability fosters perseverance and emotional resilience. Don't worry if your accountability partner doesn't share the exact same goals. What matters is a mutual commitment to honest feedback. If you skip a workout or procrastinate on a project, they need to call you out. The same goes for them. This reciprocal dynamic builds trust and respect, propelling both of you forward. It's a powerful method for battling the quitty mind, as you have a living reminder that your success isn't just about you. It's about fulfilling a promise to someone who's counting on your best effort. At the end of the day, accountability isn't about policing each other. It's about elevating each other to new levels of self-improvement. With an accountability partner, you have a constant source of motivation that's grounded in real human connection. Overcoming adversity, growing legs to walk. Think of individuals who start out with minimal resources yet surpass those who seem to have every advantage. This underdog effect is a real phenomenon. There's something about adversity that can ignite a higher level of determination and focus. David Goggins often highlights that feeling of starting from zero, what he calls growing legs to walk. Resilience training in health psychology points to this process as a pathway to strength. When you have no illusions about how hard it's going to be, you tend to push forward with a fierce resolve. Albert Einstein famously noted, "Adversity introduces a man to himself." This isn't just a poetic statement. It's supported by research on post-traumatic growth, which explores how challenging life events can become catalysts for transformation. Think of someone who loses a job only to launch a successful business, or an athlete who faces an injury yet comes back stronger with a new mindset mastery. These stories illustrate that adversity can serve as both teacher and motivator. Consider reframing hardships as stepping stones. Instead of viewing a tough situation as bad luck, see it as a forced opportunity to get creative. In business and entrepreneurship studies, it's common to find that the most innovative startups were birthed during economic downturns. The constraint of limited funds forces them to become resourceful. That same principle can be applied to personal growth. When you feel like your back is against the wall, you become more inventive and more willing to push your mental limits. To harness this perspective, start by listing the difficult situations you faced or are currently facing. For each one, ask yourself what lesson or skill you can extract. Maybe it's learning to handle rejection, or discovering that you perform better under pressure than you thought. Every challenge is a crash course in resilience, emotional strength, and self-discipline. It's up to you to sign up for that lesson instead of letting the experience define you as a victim. Yes, adversity can be painful, but it's often the birthplace of grit and perseverance. In the realm of adult learning theory, real knowledge is gained when theory meets practical experience. There's no more practical experience than adversity. It strips away illusions, showing you exactly where you stand and how far you need to go. By accepting that reality, you equip yourself with the courage to keep going. Ultimately, you may find that what seemed like insurmountable obstacles were actually springboards, catapulting you into a life of higher performance and lasting personal development. The darkness as a catalyst. Why would anyone suggest that you need a little darkness in your life? It sounds counterintuitive, but David Goggins insists that these darker moments, times of despair, regret, or intense struggle, can spark the greatest personal transformation. From a transpersonal psychology viewpoint, pain and spiritual growth can be intricately linked. Rather than seeing these experiences as pure negativity, you can view them as pathways to discovering deeper layers of yourself. Jim Rohn reminded us, "The walls we build around us to keep out sadness also keep out the joy." That statement resonates with the idea that if you avoid discomfort entirely, you also miss the lessons hidden within it. The concept of the darkness as catalyst is found throughout various cultural and spiritual traditions, suggesting that when life dims, it's an invitation to step inward. In mindfulness and emotional resilience programs, participants are often encouraged to face their troubles head-on, rather than sweeping them under the rug. A practical tool for this approach is journaling. When you write about your hardest experiences, you extract lessons from them. That's the essence of reflective practice. Even in leadership studies, reflection on failures is recognized as a key component of growth. By articulating the details, what happened, how you felt, and how you responded, you begin to see patterns and reveal blind spots. These insights fuel a mindset shift that helps you become more intentional about your next moves. Another benefit of exploring your darker moments is that it builds empathy. When you understand hardship firsthand, you're better equipped to connect with others facing challenges. This can translate into stronger relationships and a supportive network, which is vital for staying consistent in your pursuit of personal excellence. Additionally, embracing life's tougher days makes the good days sweeter. You gain emotional resilience, a quality that helps you bounce back instead of sinking deeper when future obstacles appear. None of this means seeking out pain for the sake of it. Rather, it's about recognizing that tough seasons in life can be leveraged. Each difficulty has a lesson baked in, whether it's perseverance, humility, or a clearer sense of purpose. Instead of running from the darkness, meet it with curiosity. Ask, "What can I learn here?" and watch how your perspective shifts. By reframing darkness as a resource, you turn what could be a stumbling block into a stepping stone, an unexpected yet powerful engine for achieving personal growth, mental toughness, and authentic self-motivation. The science of staying hard. What keeps a person going after the initial excitement fades? David Goggins might say it's all about staying hard, a mental toughness approach that requires grit, discipline, and unwavering commitment to your goals. Angela Duckworth, in her extensive research on grit, describes it as the combination of passion and perseverance aimed at long-term objectives. In other words, anyone can feel inspired briefly. It's the follow-through that separates mediocre efforts from high performance. Neuroscience supports the idea that repeated practice and commitment reinforce neural pathways. When you decide that quitting isn't an option, your brain eventually rewires to accommodate that belief. This principle is also seen in success strategies recommended by experts in business and organizational leadership. They argue that your most powerful growth happens when you set a non-negotiable standard. That's where if-then planning comes into play. For instance, if I feel like skipping my morning workout, then I will do at least 10 minutes of exercise instead. This removes decision fatigue by giving your brain a predefined action plan. Jim Rohn once said, "Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going." The path to staying hard involves adopting habits that lock in consistency. Whether it's reading 10 pages of a self-improvement book daily or dedicating 20 minutes to journaling, each habit cements the mindset that you're in this for the long haul. Over time, consistent actions compile into a lifestyle that automatically resists the easy way out. However, grit doesn't mean ignoring rest or self-care. Health, wellness, and holistic development research emphasize that adequate sleep, balanced nutrition, and mental breaks are integral to sustained performance. The difference lies in taking a structured rest rather than impulsively quitting. When you schedule recovery, you re-energize intentionally and come back even stronger. This approach is prevalent in sports science, where athletes plan rest days to allow muscles and minds to rebuild. Another essential ingredient in staying hard is emotional resilience. You might stumble or even fail at times, but resilience helps you rebound quickly. Think of it like elasticity, the ability to stretch under pressure but bounce back to your original shape. Regular mindfulness practices, support from an accountability partner, and self-awareness techniques can all bolster this elasticity. The key is to have tools in place for when motivation wanes. By combining grit, consistent action, and strategic self-care, you forge a level of mental toughness that stands the test of time. It's not about never feeling tired or discouraged. It's about pushing personal boundaries and returning to your mission again and again. In that persistence lies the real magic of staying hard. The final challenge: becoming unstoppable. Now that we've explored the power of radical honesty, The 40% rule, accountability, and transforming darkness into personal fuel, it's time to ask a bold question. If you never quit, what could you accomplish? Even small everyday wins begin to multiply when you stack them with self-discipline and the right mindset. As David Goggins often says, stay hard. That simple phrase carries a wealth of wisdom. No matter how tired you feel or how much doubt creeps in, you can always decide to keep going. Let's turn these insights into action. Start by identifying a limiting belief that's been holding you back. Maybe you think, I'm just not built for endurance, or I don't have enough time. Challenge that belief by setting a stretch goal. If you've only been able to run a mile, aim for 2 miles. If you've never stuck to a morning routine, commit to 15 minutes of mindful activity each day. Next, create a daily action plan. This plan should outline the small steps you'll take, the time you'll do them, and a clear reward or benefit that keeps you focused. It's the same principle used in performance management to keep employees on track, but applied to your personal life. Then, bring in an accountability partner. Someone who will not only cheer you on, but also call you out when you're making excuses. Having that extra set of eyes can mean the difference between giving in to the quitty mind and pushing through for one more set. Finally, commit to a 30-day challenge. Why 30 days? Research in adult learning and habit formation indicates that a month is often enough time to solidify new routines. Give yourself that window to experiment and track your progress meticulously. You'll likely face obstacles along the way. That's normal. Grit is built by showing up even when you don't feel like it. Reflect on each obstacle as a lesson rather than a failure. Did you skip a workout? Figure out why. Were you too tired, or did you manage your time poorly? Adjust accordingly, but don't abandon the plan. Jim Rohn taught, we must all suffer one of 2 things, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. By choosing discipline, you shape your destiny rather than letting circumstances dictate your outcomes. As you wrap up your 30-day journey, you might be surprised by how much you can accomplish when you refuse to give up. You'll discover reservoirs of self-motivation you never knew existed. You'll master pushing personal boundaries, forging a resilience that carries you through tough moments, and perhaps most importantly, you'll know firsthand what it feels like to stand on the other side of your perceived limits and see how far you can really go. Stay hard and watch the impossible become your reality.